I get it, you're staring at a stack of drone specs and wondering if you're about to drop a few $1,000s on something that will sit in the garage, or if it will actually change the way you manage your fields. The fear of buying the wrong tech is real, especially when the promise is precision agriculture and the cost is more than a decent tractor's yearly maintenance budget. You want to know if this drone will really give you actionable data without turning you into a full-time pilot, and whether the time you spend learning it will actually pay off in yield. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks talking to a handful of agronomists, watching field trials, and digging through the manuals just to see where DJI's P4 Multispectral fits in a real farm workflow. What follows is what I learned, stripped of marketing fluff and focused on what matters when you're deciding whether to add a multispectral platform to your toolbox. First off, the P4 Multispectral is built around a 3-axis gimbal that holds an RGB camera plus 5 dedicated multispectral sensors. That hardware stack is meant to give you consistent, georeferenced data across the visible and near-infrared bands, which is exactly what you need for things like NDVI maps, crop stress detection, and irrigation planning. In practice, the real strength shows up when you're flying over a 100-acre field and need a quick snapshot of plant health. The drone's RTK module locks its position down to a few centimeters, so the maps you stitch together line up perfectly with previous passes, letting you spot a problem spot that might have been missed with satellite imagery. If you're a large-scale grower who already uses a GIS system, the data output from the P4 slots right into most farm management platforms. You can set up a flight plan on the DJI Ground Station app, let the drone run the route, and get back a set of orthomosaic images and band-specific layers that you can layer over your soil maps. The workflow is relatively smooth. You input the field boundaries, set the altitude, usually around 120 feet for optimal ground resolution, and the drone handles the rest. The software does a good job of prompting you to calibrate the sensors before each flight, which, while a tiny extra step, is crucial for keeping the reflectance values reliable. For someone who's already comfortable with GPS-based equipment, that calibration feels like a familiar ritual rather than a hurdle. Now, let's talk about who should actually consider buying this thing. If you're a hobbyist who likes to capture aerial photos of sunsets or chase drone racing, the P4 Multispectral is overkill. Its price point and the learning curve around multispectral data processing are not justified when your primary goal is visual storytelling. The same goes for small-scale gardeners who only need a quick snapshot of a backyard plot. There are cheaper handheld multispectral sensors that can give you enough info without the need for a full-scale UAV. The sweet spot is mid to large farms, research stations, or consulting agronomists who need repeatable, high-resolution data sets. If you already have a workflow that can ingest NDVI or red edge layers, and you're looking to move from periodic satellite snapshots to weekly or even daily field updates, the P4 shines. It also makes sense for growers who are already using DJI's ecosystem like the Mavic series or the Phantom because the controller, app interface, and firmware updates feel familiar, reducing the friction of onboarding a new piece of hardware. On the flip side, there are practical weaknesses that you'll hit once the box is opened. Battery life, for example, is listed at 27 minutes, which is generous for a drone of this class, but on a windy day or when you're covering a larger acreage, you'll find yourself landing, swapping batteries, and relaunching more often than you'd like. The extra weight of the multispectral payload means the drone drains faster than a standard RGB model, so plan your flight legs with a safety margin. Also, while the RTK module gives you pinpoint accuracy, it relies on a clear view of the sky and a decent cellular connection for correction data. In dense canopy or remote regions with spotty coverage, you might see the positioning jitter a bit, which can introduce tiny errors into your stitched maps. Another point that trips up new users is the data management side. The camera captures 6 separate image streams simultaneously, and each one needs to be correctly aligned during processing. DJI's own software does a decent job of automating the stitching, but you still need a decent laptop and some storage space. Each flight can generate several gigabytes of raw data. If you're not prepared for that, you'll spend more time moving files around than actually analyzing the results. For farms that already have a data pipeline, this is a minor inconvenience. For newcomers, it can feel like a steep hill to climb. Low-light performance is surprisingly solid, given the sensor design. The RGB camera handles dusk shots well enough for scouting, and the multispectral sensors, which operate in narrow bands, maintain consistent signal. Thanks.